You built a business people love, but behind the scenes, it's all on you. Vision to Grow is your space to lead with clarity, hire with purpose, and finally breathe again. I'm Chrissy, your no-fluff leadership expert, here to help you hire better and lead teams with less mess. Hello and welcome back to Vision to Grow. I'm Chrissy, and before we dive into today's podcast episode, now if you're listening you won't see this, but behind me there's some gold trim, like a gold birthday banner. I am in my office recording my podcast, and look, I think I've talked about this before, but I desperately need to decorate this podcast. The most I've done is put a motivational poster in front of me, and I moved to this house in February, and I think it's such a mum thing, isn't it, that we take care of our needs last. My bedroom's lovely, but I just haven't got to the office, and I spend so much time in here. So it's a mum problem, but I think it's also an integrated problem. I'm not very visionary. I'm not really into aesthetics. That's why I always hire design VAs first, because I don't like anything design. But anyway, I digress. Let's jump into today's podcast episode. But if you do watch the reel of the podcast, you'll see the sparkles. And if you are following me on Instagram, and if you're not, you definitely should be, you're going to see a load of the sparkle backdrop from sort of mid-October, because there is so much exciting stuff happening at Grow Advantage. I'm a October birthday. I love Halloween. It's such a great time of year. Birthday's going to be a bit quirky this year because there is so much going on. But I'm going to share all of that on Instagram. So if you're not following, please come and say hi. It's going to be a good time over there. But today's episode is for the female business owner whose business only works because they're holding it all together with both hands and possibly an eyebrow twitch. This episode is your mirror. If that sounds like you, this episode is your mirror. So this is the type of business owner I'm working with really frequently. And today I really want to take you behind the scenes of one of the biggest shifts I've personally made in my business, and how that is impacting my clients and how it's challenging the landscape of how we do small business here in Australia. That's a freaking big statement, but there is something I've been watching over and over again that is so broken. So I've turned Grow Advantage from very much a project-based, one-service business, which has felt honestly like a bit of a panic-fueled sprint machine, into a retainer-first operations agency. That feels so amazing to say, with a team and a growing team that delivers operations for our clients. So I'm working with a growing number of team clients and I've got them on board. That's already happening. So we're at 5 at the moment. We're opening up more spots. I'm so excited to share this with you. But this shift has been huge, not only for me and for the roles I get to create for my team, but also for my clients. But I think, what I want to talk about in this episode today is how we need to be realistic with our businesses. And this takes time. So I'm hitting year 4 in my business, on my business journey, and probably, 4 and a bit years. And officially the 4-year anniversary is in January. But it felt like it was, in my head for a little bit longer. So I want to share how we got to this agency model, why I tore down my old business model, and what I rebuilt, and the real reason that our flagship service is selling out fast. So our brand new website drops on the 20th of October. Eek, I'm so excited. So hence the banners and the fun. And we're going to be opening up 3 of these retainer spots this month. So I'm going to be sharing that new model everywhere. But podcast listeners and people on my email list, you're going to hear this first. So if you're hearing the podcast, amazing. Make sure you come say hi on Instagram, and I will make sure that you're the first to find out about this. And yeah, if you've been waiting to work with me, this is the best offer I've done. So I'm not going to talk all about that, but I wanted to give you some context behind what is going on, which is very, very cool. And look, I listen to business podcasts because I want to hear what other business owners are doing. So I'm here to share my journey with you, warts and all, because it is totally transferable to your business. And this is a model that I'm delivering for my business, but it's so crazy because I've been delivering it for other businesses for so long. And I was working with my business coach, and she was like, I don't get it. You can do this, right? So why aren't you doing it for yourself? And I'm like, oh, light bulb moment. So I'm gonna take you back a little bit. So I started Grow Advantage while on maternity leave with baby number 2. And there's a big plot twist in that I was sort of at the late stage of my pregnancy. I just had my second child, and I knew my marriage was over. So there've been signs for a long time, like there is with any big separation, but I could no longer stay in that marriage and be myself. It's complicated. There's a lot I can't talk about. And I so would love to, but there is an awful lot going on at the moment. So when I was heading into maternity leave for baby number 2, I was working in a big corporate job. It was still like that COVID landscape. So I was working from home, working really long hours, feeling really consumed by the job and feeling like I wasn't doing a great job as a mum. And I also knew I was going to be walking into single motherhood halfway across the world from my family with 2 kids under 3. And a very loud internal no, going back into corporate job that demanded overtime. I just didn't want to give anymore. And I couldn't. Like, how was that going to work for me? Like, I live an hour and 15 minutes north of Sydney. So that would mean basically a door-to-door commute of an hour and 45 minutes every time I wanted to go into the office. Like, I didn't know if they were going to make us go back into the office post-COVID. I would definitely be doing it at least 2 days a week, but it just takes it out of you and I just couldn't do it. And then plus, my family are all in the UK, so when the kids are on my time, like, who's going to go pick up the kids if they get sick? Anyway, that's where it got to. So I decided to start a business right in the crux of thinking, oh my God, my marriage has fallen apart and living separated with my ex. So I didn't have a business degree. I didn't have a safety net. I just, with a lot of grit, and I signed up for business coaching and surrounded myself with amazing biz owners online. So that was my life. Like, I had a 6-week-old baby. She was really chill, right? So my son was in daycare full time because he was, a little rambunctious toddler boy and he did really well in childcare. I stayed with home with her, but honestly, she was so happy and so chill. So I was like looking after her and going on business coaching calls and deciding to set up that business for my family. And, I did that a few hours every day, like really, really chipped away at it. And then I had lovely lockdown baby time with baby number 2, and then spend time with my son, and that was my little life back then. So when I launched the business, it was then Hiring Advantage. I had one service, which was outsourced recruitment. So basically we work with small businesses, and it was really quickly to do their recruitment. So think of it as like your external internal recruitment team. That's how we positioned it at the time. And our clients got really great results. So we were able to hire people. They loved the service. The business grew. It was me doing, everything at first, like it is with most business owners. And then really quickly, I hired a VA and I hired a recruiter, and I was all set to scale that team because it was a really sensible business model, right? And yeah, my background was initially recruitment, but then I'd gone into recruitment and recruitment strategy. And honestly, I was building the business that I thought I should, that would make me money, that was scalable, but I didn't like it. Like, recruitment is fantastic and it's a great business, but I hadn't done that sort of agency recruitment in this point, like 10 years. And I had done it and I'd done it well, but it felt like such a junior part of my skill set. And underneath it all, I was exhausted because even with help, all of the business stuff, all of that ran through me. So I was working with external people. Like, I was always keen to invest and I was working with a coach, but I was writing SOPs. I was approving delivery. My recruiter, my VA, they were coming to me for everything. All the clients were coming to me. I was the escalation point. And I built something that, that should have been scalable, but it only worked because I was still the glue in the business. And that's when I realized, like, I hadn't figured out the model yet. And it wasn't lighting me up as well. It was a bit boring. It was a business I thought I should be running, but not the one that actually lit me up. So I'm going to pivot a little bit, but I want to talk about a trap that I see in business all the time. And at that time, I kind of stepped into it too. So I hit capacity. I was doing too much. I'd hired that VA and I'd hired like one delivery person. And I offloaded everything I could. I could breathe. But then as soon as my VA got sick or took a holiday or ghosted me, which she did every now and again, or my recruiter dropped the ball, or she went on holiday, everything came back to me. And the VA, her role was too broad, because she shouldn't be a bookkeeper and a virtual assistant and fixing websites and all of the things. That is lots of people's jobs. And look, I say I made this mistake. I didn't make this mistake as other business owners did because I've got that strong corporate background. So like, unless my VA could do it or wanted to do it, I would typically pay for an outsourced provider to do it, but that got really, really expensive. But what I see, frankly, with my clients is they hit capacity, they're doing too much, they hire a VA who seems great, they offload everything they can and they can breathe. And when that VA gets sick or ghosts them or drops the ball, it goes back to the business owner because there is no system and there's no ownership in the roles to set them free. And I've had this conversation all the time, and it took me so long to realize this. When I switched the business from Hiring Advantage to Grow Advantage, I started working with clients on their operations strategy, and they loved it and they thought it was great, and they were really lit up in the one-to-one calls and the VIP days. But so many of them, they just simply didn't want to be an operations expert, which is fair. Visionary business type owners, they didn't want to do it. Like, they didn't want to implement the systems. And even if they did implement the systems, if they just had one person fulfilling that role, when that person went sick, suddenly they were back in the inbox. They were back in delivery. They were back doing exactly the work that they were trying to get out of. And I know this is going to sound really, really familiar to you. So this is why it happens. It's because you don't actually want to hire one unicorn VA or one OBM. You need a system, and you actually need different support people in that role, right? In that role. So I gave this analogy of like Telstra. So, or your internet provider, right? So let's say you want your Wi-Fi to work and you've moved house and you're starting with a new service. Like, you don't care if it's Bob, the technician that comes and installs the copper wiring or the connection. You don't care it's Rita on customer service that you've got to speak to tell her that you're moving address. And you don't care about Sam and billing. You just want the whole damn service, right? Like, you just want the Wi-Fi to work. You don't care who's doing the do. And that is the problem that I'm seeking to solve at the moment. Because the thing is, even the most incredible VA can't hold your entire back end together. And when they leave, everything's going to break. It's going to go back to you. So I read this really interesting stat that said 42% of VA relationships fail within the first 6 months. And that is by research according to Upwork and Time Doctor. And this is not because the VA is bad. I am not knocking VAs at all. But I'm kind of knocking the business owners, to be honest. If they put systems and support in place to manage the VA, it's not going to work. And then we think about the type of VA we're hiring, right? We're hiring an Aussie OBM VA hybrid who's like $80 an hour and they've got to do everything. But then are you paying them $80 an hour to do $10 tasks? That makes no sense to me. And if you hire an offshore VA who is like, I don't know, $14 an hour, I know what I pay mine. So it's going to be somewhere between $10 and $15 an hour if you pay them directly, and around $25 an hour if you hire them through an agency. But the thing is, it's not actually their job to go and set up the systems from scratch. That is your job. And then every time you're going in and setting up a system from scratch, it's taking you away from the work you actually want to do. Because I know you're a visionary. You don't want to be an operations person. That's not your jam. So most founders are still building businesses that depend on one person carrying all of the context. So that could be your OBM. It could be your VA, but they're not really set up for that. It's problematic, right? And if that person disappears, the visionary founder owner, which is you, gets dragged right back into the weeds of your business. So there was a point where I realized I was coaching all of my clients to build scalable retainer service-based models with clean operations and teams, but I wasn't actually doing it for myself. I was still taking delivery together, and the delivery was coming through me, right? It was more of that sort of coaching, strategy, consulting business. And I was still doing it all together. I was still doing all the delivery on my own and patching up the back end instead of building a machine that could run on its own. So I tore the whole damn thing down. So now I've added this retainer model into my other service. So you can still work with me on a strategy session. You can still do a VIP day because they're amazing. And I get such amazing results and I freaking love it. And so do the clients. They're one-off services. Amazing. Love them. But for lots of business owners, they figured out they want an OBM, or they think they want an OBM, or they think they want a VA, but what they want is just to be free from their operations, right? So I've built a model I have been helping everyone else build in an operations context. And my previous clients signed on fast, right? So if you're hearing it here first, Grow Advantage is shifting to a retainer first operations agency, and it works. And one that doesn't depend fully on me, because I am one person. I have lots going on in my life, and I don't want to be your VA or your OBM and then for me to get sick and then for your operations to fall apart. Like, that doesn't sit well with me at all. So what we do is we work as a fractional integrator and operations service. So I'm the chief integrator and essentially like a fractional CEO, right? So at this stage, I'm fulfilling that role, and then I'm bringing people underneath me and then people underneath them. So what that means is there is a whole back of house team supporting your operations. So I've hired people with not dissimilar skill sets to me, but more so love delivery, right? So integrators who love delivery. So they're your OBM, project manager, hybrid, amazing. They keep everything ticking. And then underneath them is a whole pool of virtual assistants. So tech VAs, your regular virtual assistants, design virtual assistants, scheduling, inbox management, diary management, more of your like EA type, executive assistant type VAs, and they're all offshore. So what that means is you pay a weekly subscription, but you get all of these services, right? And the reason I'm telling you all this is, yeah, obviously I would love to have people who listen to the podcast come and work with us, but it's such a scalable model that you could build for yourself. So definitely transferable to a social media agency, definitely transferable to building your own operations squad if you're inclined to do so. Obviously, you're not going to be me. You're not going to have the Grow Advantage business, but it's transferable. It's transferable to advertising agencies. It's transferable to probably allied health if you've got like more senior and more junior people underneath them, and I know this because I build it for my clients. So I created a team and a system that could scale without stretching me to the limit. And it's working. So I'm sitting in that more strategic part at the top. I'm doing the initial calls with the clients. I'm building their strategy and I'm checking in with them less frequently. And then the team under me is driving that work. And that is so much more cost effective for the client than hiring me. Like my strategy sessions are $1,000. They're $997 for 90 minutes. The retainer is so much more cost effective for that because it's not all reliant on me. It's got people at different levels all working together to provide the service. So in corporate, we call this a managed service provider. Like exactly what I said about the internet, like you're paying for the service. And yet in that service, there's going to be more senior people and more junior people, but you just pay for the package, right? So I'm really proud of it. And we signed initially 5 clients and then we signed 6 and I've not even got it on the website yet. And the most amazing thing about that was I'm not the bottleneck anymore for myself or my clients. It doesn't sit well with me, like I said. I don't want to take a day off and then things fall apart. And that was never going to be an option for me with a retainer scalable service. I don't want to be the fallback. I don't want to be the fixer. I don't want to be the emergency plan. I want to lead and without carrying the load alone. It's always been my value to hire a team and create incredible jobs for women and men. For people who've got kids, for people who want flexibility in the work, like that really drives me. I've always talked about that. Go back and listen to the early hiring advantage episodes. I always talk about that. It's so important. We want to seek to drive change in the way we work, then we need to be making the change ourselves. So I truly believe that. Now, I want to talk about for business owners, this whole like focus time piece and why that's not enough, right? So when we're talking about operations, we're talking about your general day-to-day business as usual operations, like the stuff that needs to happen to make sure your business runs. And then there's a whole continuous improvement piece, which I talked about last week. And I want to talk about something I know you've tried. You tried to block out CEO time to work on your business. And you probably blocked that time out on a Monday morning, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And you're like, this week I'm going to tackle this system. I'm going to create that SOP. I'm going to finally do the work on my website. And this Friday, I'm going to clean up all of my onboarding. And this month, I'm going to finally fix the cracks in delivery. But then your VA gets sick, or your client blows up, or your team hits a wall and you get pulled straight back into approvals and panic fixing things in Slack. And that focus time is gone. Because here's the truth. You cannot continuously improve your business if you are constantly reacting to it. I'm going to say that again. You cannot continuously improve your business if you are constantly reacting to it. Nobody can. It's called continuous improvement for a reason. It's not a one-off Notion binge or an Airtable sprint. It's a rhythm, it's a structure, and it's leadership. There's whole books written about this, right? So Gina Whitman's written Rocket Fuel and Traction, and that talks about that visionary integrator alliance. The visionary's idea is the big picture thinking, being the face of the business, holding the vision, getting people excited, more so sales in the room. They're probably the person who's doing the PR, they're guesting on podcasts, and the integrator is the person who makes shit get done. And then underneath that is operations people. And if you thought of it in like a corporate context, you've got C-suite, right? So underneath your CEO, you would have like your COO, and then you would have like sales and marketing. You would have finance, you would have, I think, sales probably separately, marketing, finance, and a delivery team and tech teams, right? So think of it like that. The thing is, if you're the CEO and you're trying to be both of that, it's a mishmash and it's going to be hurting your head. And I know you're saying to yourself, I'll just multitask. I'll fix delivery while coaching the team, while reviewing that new hire. And here's the cold, hard data. Here is the cold, hard data on that. Multitasking reduces productivity up to 40%. So if you Google multitasking, it's just going to basically tell you it's not a thing, right? It's not productive. It's not the best use of your time. And that stat, multitasking reduces productivity by up to 40%, is from the American Psychological Association. The American Psychological Association. That's hard. I'm reading that. It's hard to say for me. But here's the thing. Your brain isn't actually doing multiple things at once. It's switching constantly, and every switch burns out your mental battery. So if you're toggling between ClickUp, emails, Slack, delivery approvals, jumping into your Instagram DMs, and then you're trying to lead your team as well, you're not building, you're not improving, you are just surviving. And you can't think like a visionary when your brain is being hijacked by admin chaos. I want to say that again because it's so impactful. You can't think like a visionary when your brain is being hijacked by admin chaos. And that is where most founders plateau. They have clients and they've hired support, but their structure is not there. And that's why our Grow Advantage clients don't just need more one VA. And they understand this. They need a system and they need a squad that can run the business without them in the middle of every single decision. They just want all the decisions wrapped up in a neat bow and given to them, and they make a decision between A or B and say yes or no, and then just make it happen, right? Like, how good would that feel? So our fractional integrated and operations partnership is going to sell out really, really fast because visionary founders feel the pain. There's so many posts about it. You know, you left the 9 to 5 to do a 70-hour week, all of that type of thinking. These are things that you've already probably tried as a visionary business owner. You've hired an amazing VA or 3. You're writing SOP templates, but never have time to actually implement them. You're coaching your team while doing delivery and managing sales. And you're telling yourself, I'll sort it next month. It's going to be okay. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to have time. I'm going to get this fixed. But then you don't really want to do it. And that's okay. But here's the thing. It's not going to stick. 69% of small business owners say they're overwhelmed by day-to-day operations and can't focus on strategy. That is from Salesforce Small Business Trends. That is a leadership problem and not a hustle problem. Working harder is not going to fix that. So what do we do at Grow Advantage and how do we want to help you fix it? We're going to give you a strategic integrator. I'm going to give you a strategic integrator. That is me. I am currently taking that role while I'm growing this service and refining it. It's new. It's pretty epic, but it's new. So I want to be really, really involved because it's awesome and I love it. So initially, it's going to be me as a strategic integrator, and then I'm going to basically promote from within because I'm hiring amazing people. And then underneath me, you've got an integrator, and the integrator is essentially that hybrid between like an OBM, which is an online business manager, right? And a project manager. So they make sure all your operations are getting delivered. They're communicating with you. You're only really dealing with them on a day-to-day, weekly basis. And then underneath them is a team of doers. So tech VAs, admin support, project admin. And we've got lots of designers, people who make reels, people who can design beautiful PDFs, presentations, all of that stuff that you need to happen in your business that 100% should not be you. And some of the clients, they're still utilizing their own VAs, and then they're using us to really, really drive that continuous improvement, which I'll share more about next week. So what that means is you get to focus with your team on your weekly delivery management. You get to show up. If you're a coach, you get to show up and just coach, right? And know that the back end of ops is sorted. I've got a client who is Allied Health. She's got a whole team who deliver that service, but we're making sure that her socials are still running, her inbox is getting answered, and that we're helping her launch her course. Plus, we are going to be streamlining how the operations run in her service arm of the business. It's very cool. I'm clearly very excited. So, and comms, right? We love a bit of comms, but we want to give you clean dashboards, clean reporting, actual progress, and 10 hours back in your week within the first 30 days. You get to lead again. Your team starts delivering without constant hand holding. And finally, you get to focus on what you're actually here to do. So I've talked a lot about this service. What I want you to remember is, yes, I am sharing this service with you. I want you to know about it. But I also want you to understand that this is a service model that you can put into your business if you are a service provider. I really want you to think about yourself as the CEO and what that looks like and what you should be doing. Google it. Literally look at job descriptions of a CEO. It is not you doing all of the working on your business. So I really hate that. I've heard from business coaches and listened to podcasts in the past where they're like, block out Monday and you work on your business. Well, what does that even mean? Is that like you literally become the operations manager for a day, for one day? How's that going to work? I don't get it. Especially if you're a visionary and then your diary is so full of guesting on podcasts or speaking on stages or writing a book or running a program that's really busy and you love it and you don't want to sit and write SOPs. So I'm going to talk to you about what is happening over the next few weeks. So next week, as I said, we're going to be dropping the Grow Advantage website and you're going to see this service model everywhere. And I'm going to make it really clear what we do, who it's for, and how we're scaling it. And this is going to get louder. This month, I'm going to open up for another 3 spots. We've already got 6, and then we're going to probably cap it about 10 spots. I do free calls. Feel free to jump on one. It's in the link. And this is for you if you're ready to stop reacting, if your brilliant brain is tired of being the glue, and if you've built something amazing, but you know it's time to structure to actually scale your business. More so than that, I really want you to have a job you actually love. Typically, my clients, they're kind of 4 to 7 years in business, and they've been hustling really hard for a really long time. They know that their service works. They've got repeat clients. They've got demand, but they're still doing all of the things and they don't want to do it anymore. And that is okay. That has to be another way. So this is your moment to get yourself out of the weeds and build something that can run without you. This is an option. Or take this model and think about what you can implement yourself. Take from this podcast and take what you can implement yourself. That is what this podcast is for, right? I'm just giving you other options if you want to go faster. And I just want you to remember you are doing so amazing. More power to any woman who sets up a business. You know, it's a lot. I am in a busy season, right? So I am building the team, but I still have to bring the team on and train them. I love that type of work, so it's great, but it's a busy season. So if you're in a busy season, I hear you, I see you. You know, I talk a lot about school holidays because it's so, in where I am at my life, it so sort of chunks up the year, right? So I'm recording this, I think, in the middle of spring school holidays. And then by the time you listen to this, we're going to be a hop, skip and a jump to summer school holidays, right? So have a think about how that's going to look for you. If you're doing everything, make a plan. Take these next 3 podcast episodes are going to really help you with that, because I don't want to see that happening to any female small business owner. I don't want you doing all of it. I want you to do what you want. You're not broken. Your model probably just needs an upgrade. So take what you can from this podcast episode, or if you are keen to run faster, book in a call with me. Link is in the show notes. As always, I'm so grateful that you've tuned into this podcast. It means the absolute world to me, watching those numbers go up every week. I put a lot of energy into it. I do a lot of research, and help me grow it. Keep listening, make sure you're following, and share this with a friend if you think anything I've said in this podcast could resonate with them. And if we're not already friends on Instagram, please come over and say hi. I'm linking the show notes. That is there too. So I'm Chrissy L. My Instagram handle is at Chrissy L. So Chrissy, CHRISSY, and LELLE, and an underscore. That's my Instagram account. And I love a chat in the DMs. I love connecting with other female business owners. I think one of my favorite things about what I do is understanding other businesses and what makes the business owners tick. It's like absolutely one of my favorite things about getting into business is, you know, what people's stories are. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. It's such an exciting time. I'm so in love with this podcast and recording it. And wherever you are in your business journey, I'm always here for a chat. Thank you again for being here, and we will chat next week.
Audience exclusive.